We're recording this on Monday, July 21st, the 1-year anniversary of Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential race. Happy anniversary, guys.
Thanks.
Seems like there are still some feelings out there, people working through some feelings. Here's a selection from a 3-hour interview the internet outlet Channel 5 conducted with Hunter Biden.
You know what George Clooney did? Because he sat down, I guess, because he was like given the blessing by the Obama team or the Obama people and whoever else, and David Axelrod and whoever the fuck else, is to go, okay, yeah, you know what? We are going to insert our judgment over yours. Me and James Carville, who hasn't run a race in 40 fucking years, and David Axelrod, who had one success in his political life, and that was Barack Obama. And that was because of Barack Obama, not because of fucking David Axelrod. And David Plouffe, and all of these guys, and the Pod Save America guys, who were junior fucking speechwriters on Barack Obama's Senate staff, who have been dining out on the relationship with him for years.
First of all, that's insulting. John, you were chief speechwriter.
I was chief speechwriter. I was the only one in the Senate office.
And imagine, it must be just so hard for Hunter Biden to watch all these people dining out on somebody's name.
It's tough.
You know?
It's tough.
Tommy, you listened to all 3 hours. What'd you find?
Yeah, I listened to all 3 hours. I don't know why I did that. I have a lot of feelings about it. In part because I interviewed Hunter on this show, and I think 2021 about his book, and I kind of feel like I got duped now. Like I have a lot of empathy for anyone who's dealt with addiction issues. But let's just go to starting with this interview. Like, I get why he's mad. If my dad went through that, I'd be mad too. He gets to air his grievances when he wants. He found a very credulous partner to give him 3 hours. The guy literally says to him at one point, "I'm on your team." That's a quote.
Oh, wow.
And at one point, the guy also says nothing wrong with making some money here and there when they're talking about his business dealings. Like, Hunter's also right.
Speaking of dining out.
Yeah, there's not enough. Like, one interesting point Hunter makes, there is not enough scrutiny of like the origins of the laptop story. Like, this laptop gets to this technician, to Rudy Giuliani, and
Sure.
no one kind of questions that, right? Some fair points, okay? But mostly
Yeah,
it is,
I guess. I mean, sure.
I know. But mostly it is 3 hours of Hunter playing the victim, and he like rages at us, and he rages at Axelrod and Clooney. But the problem was the voters.
I know.
And they never
That's all I
addressed
wanted
that.
to say.
The voters thought Joe Biden was too old. And when it comes to the attacks on Hunter himself, like, okay, what if we just stipulate for the hypothetical, like, yes, okay, all your business dealings were above board and legal. All your paintings were purchased by art lovers who loved the product and didn't know your name. Trump is worse. You were on the board of Burisma because of who your dad is. And that is what people hate about Washington. And it was part of the problem. And like, there's some other weird shit. Like, he said blames the debate on Biden's staff, saying they gave him Ambien on his foreign trip. But like, Biden got back from the G7 on June 14th. The debate was June 27th.
A lot of fucking Ambien.
If Ambien was the issue, like, I don't think it's Ambien, it's age.
Also,
right?
It's like he was tired, so they gave him Ambien?
Also, like, just like, allow me to rant one more second. Like, his big beef is that Republicans stick together and Democrats are united. But he's obsessed with this show, obsessed with George Clooney. They don't talk about Gaza until 2 hours and 50 minutes into the interview. I'm guessing that was the bigger threat to party unity than a George Clooney op-ed. You know what I mean? It's just this sense of entitlement that, like, from Biden, from his family, from the inner circle, that he was like owed the presidency, owed a second term. It is just very fucking grating.
The whole premise of 2024 was, yes, voters are saying that Joe Biden's age is his biggest liability. But don't worry, because Joe Biden's the closer. And when you see him campaign, he's going to put those worries to rest. He had a good State of the Union, and then he had the worst debate any of us had ever seen, and it became insurmountable. And so at long last,
He didn't put the concerns to rest, he put his campaign to rest.
Right. And at long last, the Democratic establishment decided to listen to the voters. And it was very hard to get the establishment to do that, but ultimately they did that. And everybody kind of collectively ultimately were able to get Joe Biden to step aside and do the right thing for the country. Now, we don't live in the world where Joe Biden ran that race all the way to the end. But one thing we know is that Hunter Biden, throughout Joe Biden's presidency, was a terrible liability for him. And put the addiction aside, it is because he was on Burisma, because he became an artist, because he was part of a kind of like sleazy Washington that, as Tommy said, people hated. You were a liability. You should be ashamed of the ways in which you made your father's political life worse. And like the idea that we're going to listen to you now, like give me a fucking break. It's ridiculous.
My reaction was, first of all, I wish you all the best, Hunter. Forget about it.
I like the art. I
You
like the art.
yeah.
I think the art had a lot of pathos.
Like, attack us, attack George Clooney. I don't fucking care. But like, listening to Hunter Biden interview post-election, especially the Hunter Biden one, but also Jill Biden, also Mike Donnellan, when I think that these are basically the only people by the end who Joe Biden was listening to, you're like, no wonder he didn't fucking drop out.
Right.
He wasn't. We know now that there were a whole bunch of pollsters who their information was not getting to Joe Biden, and because Mike Donnellan wasn't letting it get in. There's a whole staff that was working for Joe Biden, some of their whole lives, and they were kind of shut out too. The only people in the circle at the end was the family, was Hunter, this person in the interview, and Jill, and Mike Donnellan, who just had this faith that Joe Biden was going to win the election that wasn't based on any kind of measurement or data at all. Like the New York Times poll in February, 61% of Biden 2020 voters said he was too old to be effective. And that concern cut across generations, gender, race, education. Hunter does a whole thing in here about we didn't know what the black voters of South Carolina. It was everyone who thought he was too fucking old. 20% of Biden 2020 voters in that poll said he was no longer capable of handling the job. This 20% of his own voters in a poll in February. On the eve of the debate, 86% of Americans said Biden's age was a major or moderate concern. That was before the debate, 86%. And then Trump had a slight lead heading into the debate. He had a slight lead into the battleground debate. So what are you? I just don't like the rewriting history, and I hate fucking getting back into this and relitigating and doing the fight and dragging it out. But Hunter's on a fucking tour right now, and just going forward, I think the lesson to learn is because hopefully we're not going to have an 80-something-year-old geriatric candidate again. But going forward, the lesson is look, you just can't listen to your small little circle have a bubble and then be impervious to any fucking outside criticism or data that is saying otherwise. Forget about Washington, forget about the pundits, listen to the fucking voters.
Also, just on the age thing, I mean, they're talking about it, and Hunter talks about the debate performance, and he says that we need to grapple as a society with, quote, how we handle people that age in front of our eyes and recognize that they may have lost a physical step, but that does not mean they don't have the mental capacity to do their job. We're not talking about whether a loved one can live alone anymore. We're talking about running the country. What are you talking about, man?
What about the capacity to communicate what you're going to do as president?
But, also, just seeing this today, I guess what I wanted, if I was in a room with him and able to talk rationally, I'd just be like, hey, man, look around the world. Look at what's happening in this country right now. I know you're angry personally, but you're not the fucking victim here. We're all living with what happened in this election. And
you got a pardon. You're fine.
It's just
Yeah.
utter lack of self-awareness.
It's the shamelessness that really gets you in the end.
Well, I saw one quote he said, we all talk about the incredible popularity of Barack Obama. Barack Obama never got more than 69 million votes. My dad got 81 million votes. Dude, now you sound like fucking Donald Trump, who can't figure out that as the years go on, the population increases and more people vote in a high turnout
pandemic.
election. Well, come on, man, you sound like Trump.
George Clooney's not an actor. The low-rated Jake Tapper. It's amazing to watch people become the thing that they claim to be the savior from.
It's wild.
Amazing.
It's wild.
Amazing.
Maybe that's the last time we hear from the Biden family on the election. Fingers crossed. For a while.
I mean, maybe just not during the worst 2-week news cycle of Trump's administration either.
Well, it's important to get into the Epstein cycle. You want to pop your head up at the opportune time.
Here's some good news. Stephen Colbert doesn't have to figure out how to do an interview with Joe Biden about his book in a year and a half.
Stephen Colbert has 10 months to do whatever the fuck he wants.
I know. I hope he.
That's the other thing with
knows.
if it was real political pressure, they maybe would have yanked him. But he's got 10 months,
And
he
he's
should
free.
He should fucking use it.
Yeah, I bet he will. That's exciting.